Alrighty, I think we are live now. So, welcome to another episode of Whiskey with an Agent. I am Jared Allison with JDA Florida Homes, and I am an agent with Century 21 Alton Clark here in Central Florida. But I cover all of Central Florida when it comes to real estate. However, tonight is a little bit more relaxed. We're drinking whiskey and we're going to talk about photography and marketing and everything that goes with that. So there's a lot of interesting things that come with when you're listing a home. So that's what we're going to dive into. So I've got a brand new intro, so I'm going to play that for you guys. Hopefully it comes through. Maybe. All right, man. What's up, Chris? All right, I got Chris Noon on the line with us. He's joining me for Whiskey with an Agent. So
It's
yeah,
really
go
good to
ahead.
be here, man. This is a lot of fun, Jared. Like I've always been really into the podcast world, and so for
Right.
you to announce that you're doing like a little podcast agent, Whiskey with an Agent, I was jumping on board. I'm like, yes, I am 100% in on this. We'll love to be a guest, and hopefully some more to come. So
Yeah,
this is fun.
definitely.
And
Um,
cheers.
yeah, cheers. I guess we got a drink to whenever you say cheers.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys have a particular whiskey you want to go out and get, I'll wait for you. Obviously, we've already got ours. I've got more right back there. I think Chris has some more waiting just in case.
Just in
Um,
case.
Nope. Jenny Peters. Hey, Jenny, what's going on? She says hello. Chris, do you have
What's up, Jenny?
the comments up at all or no?
Let's see. It actually says on my end that we're having a little hard time playing this video.
Oh,
So
really?
I'm not seeing it here. Let me try
Okay.
just kind of refreshing it.
Oh, that's fine. It's showing live on my end, and it's got both of our mugs up there on the screen. So
Okay.
unless somebody says it's not working, then we'll just continue on. So,
Okay.
um, so tonight we're going to talk about photography, marketing. There's a lot of stuff that goes into the marketing part of listing a home. So it's not just show up to a house and take pictures. There's a lot more to it. I mean, we're talking photography, we're talking aerials, 3D
Mhm.
tours, video, all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of importance to not just having those things, but also having quality, uh, having those things in high quality because we're in I mean, since the pandemic, I mean, I know you've seen it, Chris, the a lot more people are shopping online. I mean, people are looking at
Mhm.
houses and putting contracts before even seeing them in person. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you agree with that?
100%. I agree. But long before like the COVID, like the average shopper statistics showed that it was like 92 to 94% of buyers were shopping online because that's the number one spot. I mean, you have big juggernauts such as Zillow and Realtor.com, Trulia, and many other places where a lot of people shop online. And
Right.
since the COVID happened, I guarantee that number went from like 94 to about 98%, because with the whole world or the whole country just doing a mass exodus from major cities, it's just that huge surplus had to have increased that number to like 98%.
Yep.
A lot of buyers that I've been experiencing for my listings have been out of state. They've never seen the house. So a lot of the recent ones, the most recent one that I had was on in Deltona. I had 30 offers in 4 days, and majority of those people were not even from the local area.
Really?
So
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely crazy.
Mhm.
Um, and the fact that the average time on market or the median time on market right now for this area is right about 6 days. So I mean,
Yeah.
having good photos, having good
Yep.
everything, because that's going to help help you
Yes.
get those contracts within that allotted time or within
Yeah.
that time.
And for the
So
median for the nation is 17 days. and
Yes.
that's wild. So
Yes.
it's in order to get such as like my latest listing, I told you got like 30 offers on it, and it has direct result to the marketing, to photography, to that effect, and
Right.
why it's so important. And we're going to show you. I'm sure we'll show examples, right, Jared,
Yep.
of the quality. A
Yes.
lot of people are griping that agents get paid too much for almost nothing. These homes are selling themselves. It's like, although like the market is definitely having a demand and impact, but the level of quality of the realtor that you hire has a drastic impact on the the effects you get when it comes to selling the home. And a
Yep.
lot of that has to go into quality
Yep.
of the
Yep.
photography and marketing.
Correct. And I mean, to your point there, Chris, is, as far as what realtors are getting paid, I mean, I'll go through. So when we're talking about this stuff, I'm going to kind of throw out some prices of what it actually costs to do some high end photos, and
Mm-hmm.
video alone is probably the most expensive thing that you could pay
Yeah.
somebody to do, and depending on the quality and the type of video that you want to do and the style of the home and what you want to feature and things like that. However, I mean, there's an added cost of, I've seen videos, people do videos for upwards of $1,500, like literally on
Yeah.
$1 million home, easily spend
Even
fifteen
more.
hundred
Yeah.
dollars or more.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If you're
So
dealing with $1 million home, that's a big home. And so
yes.
there's so many elements,
Yep.
lifestyle, videographies are like 4 or 5 minutes long. And then you have, if you notice like TikTok and some quality influencers on social media, their videos are the way it's shot, structured, the zooming, the cut sequences, the music, and all tied into it. That's a lot of work that the videographers have to sit down. Shooting is easy. That's a half
Hmm.
day's to a day's work.
Yep.
The rest of the time is just all just editing, editing,
Right.
editing, editing.
Yep.
And so that's where the time and the money comes into play with it.
Yep. I've got a couple of comments on here, and so I guess not everybody's drinking a whiskey. Somebody mentioned Dr. Pepper. Somebody else mentioned Mr. Pibb. What I don't know. I think Dr. Pepper is where it's at. Mr. Pibb, he didn't go to school
I
long
guess
enough,
so.
so that he's not a doctor. So I mean, what's your choice if you had to choose one?
Dr. Pepper.
There you go.
I'm a Dr. Pepper guy
I'm not.
over Mr. Pibb.
Yep. I'm not sure if it was a debate on there, but Dr. Pepper is where it's at. Just saying.
Agreed. Agreed.
Um, well, let's jump into it. So I've got a few things, key points here that I just want to
Okay.
go over. So, well, let's actually. So, guys, if you haven't figured out, this is episode 2. So we're still figuring out the mechanics of how to get this set up and everything, and it's very relaxed. So if I'm messing up, just bear with me. Throw some comments in there,
Yeah.
and we'll keep it going. But oh, let's see. So photography.
Mhm.
Actually, let's go into, so when you're thinking about listing your home, let's talk about a few things at a minimum that your real estate agent should be offering to you. So real estate agents, when you're getting ready, hopefully you're going to interview some real estate agents, and you interview, several of them. What they should be offering you as far as the digital assets at a minimum is going to be photos and some sort of Zillow 3D, something like that. But those are probably the two minimum things I would think. What are your thoughts on that, Chris?
I would also have to argue videography.
Okay.
If you look where majority of people are hanging out on a digital space, it's social media. And if you a lot of not there are people who post, but predominantly Instagram and Facebook and now TikTok, they're really pushing videography.
That's true.
And
Yep.
although they're like 15 to 20, 30 seconds, that kind of seems to be where I think real estate needs to kind of start turning for videos. Because we used to do these long pans, slow pans, so people can absorb it. But
Right.
at a rate of people scrolling, it's seconds. If you can't capture somebody within literally 2 seconds, they're
Yep.
scrolling right through.
Yep.
So digital walkthroughs are 100% important. I think there should be a must for
Yep.
sure, especially
Yep.
with the amount of people who are looking online and who maybe can't walk the property physically because they're buying from out of state.
Right.
That should be a must on all listings. I do it with all of my listings, regardless of price point, as I
Yep.
do that.
Yep.
And then also the video needs to start switching it up. I'm thinking about it. And then high quality photos, because that's going to be the first initial grab attention click.
Yep.
Right there.
So we just got a comment up here. Jillian's asking, does that include the older population? And there's two sides to that. The older population, they're not necessarily on TikTok or Instagram, but they are sometimes on Facebook or a lot of times the older population. So especially now during the pandemic, they don't want to go out. They don't want to expose themselves to the risk of getting COVID-19. So they are shopping online. So that's where the good photography, and then a video for older population, I think might be an easier thing for them to view. It's probably a lot easier for them to navigate a video than it would be like a 3D tour, for example.
Agreed.
But
agreed. I look at my analytics for when I on Facebook particularly of the age demographic, and it is the older generation versus the millennial generation on Instagram. Millennials, like the 30s and like or whatever that age range is, definitely on Instagram predominantly. Right. And then the older generation definitely is on Facebook. And the analytics kind of just is proof right there for me, at least on my videos that I've noticed.
Right. And
specifically not 50s, 60s.
Yep. But then, the other thing we have to think about too are the millennials, and they're getting into that. They're starting to get to that age where they're actually looking at buying homes. So we have to be able to market to that particular demographic through these forms of media. So, let's see. I thought I had a stat here about how many millennials were coming into the market. I don't see it. Oh, well, there's a lot.
There's a lot. It's making a majority of the purchases right now. Yeah. Because I'm calling it the COVID effect. Because of COVID, and this is just from my assumption, I'm not by any means right or I'm wrong. The older generation, since they are more susceptible to the COVID, a lot of them are taking advantage. Instead of moving and downsizing, they're taking advantage of the low interest rate, doing refis, cashing out, and they're remodeling their entire house.
Yep.
So they're not actually entering the marketplace very much.
Yep. I found that stat here. So customers age 18 to 34 are 130% more likely to look at a place if there's a virtual tour. So, and that's kind of that millennial demographic there, 18 to 34. So just by having that, you're now appealing to that whole new demographic versus not having it. So, but going back to, we're talking about at a minimum what an agent should be doing as far as digital assets, but is obviously photography, 3D tour if they can. And then, even if it's just a walkthrough video where you're holding your camera, hopefully on some sort of gimbal. I've got a camera phone or a cell phone gimbal right here. Hopefully they're using one of these, so you're not getting a shaky walkthrough on the way through. I just bought, so talking about the new toys and stuff here, I just bought this Pocket 2 gimbal camera. Have you seen one of these?
No, a Pocket gimbal.
Yeah.
Oh wow, check that out.
So it's got a little screen on it, and then then this is a gimbal, so I actually can walk through. I did a house earlier today. I just shot a house for another agent, and I used this for if I'm not doing high-end video or something, I mean, this still shoots 4K 60. So,
You can't
but
go wrong. That's
no,
great.
no. So I mean, I'm shooting 4K. My big camera doesn't even shoot 4K 60. However, it has better picture quality and everything.
Yeah.
Um, and I can do like 4K 30 frames a second. That's what I mean, 30, 60 frames per second for those that
Yeah.
weren't sure what I was talking about. And it's just a matter of how many frames per second that the camera is shooting, and it allows you to do different things with it. But this thing shoots 4K resolution, and it's got the gimbal, so when I'm walking through the house, I can just
Yeah.
go through and I get that buttery smooth
Yeah. And you get to see
image,
it through a mini display.
and I get this little tiny display that you can kind of see what's going on, and you're not gonna get real detailed on this screen,
Mm.
but it's pretty cool, some of the things that you can do. And but
Jared, send me a link of that when you can.
okay.
Doesn't have to be right away.
Yeah,
Definitely
yeah,
got to
yeah.
get that. Got to put that in my arsenal.
It's pretty cool, and I literally I carry it in my pocket, and when it's time to shoot video, I pull it out. Otherwise, I mean, I have my big gimbal that I put my big camera on, but you got to pull it out, you got to put it together, you got to balance it and all that
Balance
kind of
it.
stuff.
You
So
can spend
whereas
easy 20
this-
minutes just balancing.
exactly. So whereas this, it's a lot easier to go in and just pull that out and then just start walking through, and it records audio, and it there's a whole lot of cool things you can do with it. But so like I said, at a minimum, they should at least be doing that. And then so one thing I do see with other agents, and I've got some examples here, is they're going through and they're using their cell phone to go through and take quality photos. Which, don't get me wrong, if you have a brand new high-end phone, they do really, really nice photos, but it's still not going to be the same.
You can tell.
The other, I guess what I'm trying to say is, okay, you can have a high-end phone, you can have a high-end camera in general, a DSLR, a mirrorless camera, or anything like that, but if you don't know how to use it, you're still not going to get good quality photos.
Yeah.
But what I see a lot of times is agents coming through in portrait mode. Landscape mode is how you would want to take a photo to start with, but I see a lot of photos. Actually, let me pull up a couple examples. I pulled these off the internet. And I don't know if you can see, but see if you can spot the camera phone. It's right there in the mirror, and hopefully you can see it. I can't make it full screen. It wouldn't let me. But so on this one, you can see it, and the phone is being held like this. That's also that gives you that narrow field of view. Here's another one, camera phone. This one they've actually got it turned sideways, but still, it's a camera phone.
You can see it, huh?
Kind of a weird angle, and the other thing is, get out of the mirror. Get out of the mirror. You don't know how many times I take photos, and there's no way to get out of the mirror, but when you go through editing, that's when you edit that kind of stuff out.
Yeah.
And
a lot of times those images can't even be captured correctly, and it's like, okay, cool, where's the rest of the bathroom? All I see is you and your flash. It's kind of mind-boggling. Here's another aspect of the complaint that I said earlier about people who gripe about agents who get paid too much for nothing. It's like, well, there's a difference between a hobbyist who does real estate on the side versus a professional such as you and I, where we do this full time. This is our livelihood, so we know what it takes to sell a property.
Exactly.
And a lot of this stuff we front costs, like the photography, the marketing. These are all upfront at expenses for us, and there's no promise to us even being able to sell the property, so long as especially if it's not realistic.
Right.
A realistic listing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it's just it boggles my mind when you're as a client, you're selling your house, you're potentially paying 6% to agents, 3% to your agent, to your listing agent, and then they're coming in here with that and taking photos.
Mhm.
I
It's
mean,
a spray and pray if you think about
yes.
it.
Yep.
He's like, I'm gonna go ahead and take some photos. There's no composition. You're
Yep.
going from the outside to the inside, and you're gonna start off in the master bedroom. They're gonna go back outside to the pool,
Right.
and then you're gonna go to the kitchen cabinet, and then here's a picture of the floor showing you that it's wood floor. And
Right.
it's like there's no composition, there's no way to help the buyer who's searching online, which is predominantly going to be 95% of buyers right now are going to be online, and they're going to stay away from your house
Yeah.
because they can't understand it.
Right.
It shows poorly. There's three reasons why a house doesn't sell, and we're focusing on one tonight. It's marketing, pricing, and condition. Well, if your marketing is poor or the photography is poor, then it shows that a good house in a poor condition.
Correct.
So therefore, there's two out of the three that just bit you in the butt on
Right.
being able to sell your house.
Yep.
So what Jared and I are trying to say is that if you're listing your house, it's literally thousands upon thousands of dollars that you're paying to an agent, and you're not going to vet them. Oh, I'm going to let my friend do it. They're brand new. It's like, okay, but do they have the skill set? Do they
Right.
have a team backing them to support what needs to be done to
Have them
sell it
show you
successfully?
examples.
Yeah.
Make sure they bring examples. And if they don't have examples, then
Hmm.
they probably don't want to show you because they're not that good.
Yeah, and make sure that anybody can pull up an example of a house too. So make sure they
Yep.
show you. You ask for it. Is this show me proof, because you can see who the listing agent is.
Yes. Yep.
So make sure you show that. So whenever I do a listing presentation, I definitely showcase my capabilities through my own listings, so my past sales and current sales,
Yep.
current activity,
Yep. Yep.
and let the proof is in the pudding, right, Jared?
That's right. Let's see, a couple more comments. Speaking of this is from Liesel. Speaking of pics, frustrating to see pictures that aren't realistic once you visit the home,
Mm.
such as like a fish lens or something like that. So I mean that happens quite a bit, especially. So there's a couple of things to that. Yes, the fish lens, it kind of distorts things, or maybe it doesn't look as good as it should, or vice versa. Maybe it looks a lot better, and then you show up, you're like, well, this is nothing what I
Hmm.
imagined. There's a couple of sides to that. So a lot of times, one of the things we can do is like in an empty house, we can do what's called virtual staging, and what that allows us to do. So you have an empty room, and it's in being realistic, when a buyer comes into a home and they see an empty room, it's hard for them to imagine their stuff, where it's going to go and how it's going to fit, how it would be set up. And
Hmm.
which is kind of weird, because if you put too many things in there, then it's still hard for them to come, because now it's cluttered, and it's
Hmm.
hard for them again to imagine how their things would be set up, and they're afraid that their
Yeah.
items that are moving in are going to be
Yeah.
cluttered and everything. So but a lot of times, so sometimes what we do is virtual staging. So you take a photo of a room, and then you can actually take furniture and put it in that room. But those are just for, and usually we put a little blurb on the photo or in the
We
description
have to
saying, hey,
now.
this is a virtually
Yeah.
staged home, just for that
Yep.
reason. Like
Yeah.
so we're not, so
Yeah.
you're not showing up to the house and saying, well, this doesn't look anything like it.
Yeah.
So
And as well as and we actually have to now. I think the MLS, if not the Florida
yeah.
realtors, had passed that you have
Yep.
to dictate that the images that are virtual are virtual. And I do believe in over editing, and I definitely see where that
Yes.
person is complaining. Like
Yep.
you said, the fisheye lens very distorts the thing. People do panorama shots. That and then also a lot of our cameras are wide lens, so it makes the room seem a lot larger than what it is. But the reason for
Yes.
that is so we can actually showcase the room.
Right.
So and I totally understand that it does show, it's larger than what it really is, but that's also just kind of the nature of the beast a little bit. And I do believe in over editing, as well as manipulations of, say, the grass. I see that a lot. The grass is so luscious, it's beautiful and green. You get there and it's dead, and it's like,
Right.
what the
Yep.
heck happened here?
Yep.
It's like a virtual sky is one thing, but grass, I think you shouldn't be doing that.
Right.
Because
Yep.
you want to show truth to the
Right.
house.
Yep.
So over
Yeah.
editing, I think, is a real thing you want to avoid.
Yep. And going back to what you're talking about, so there's a lot of different lenses. So when we were talking about DSLR cameras and uh, mirrorless cameras and things like that, there's a lot of different lenses. And if you're not familiar, you have what's called like a wide angle lens. You have like a sort of your typical like 35 millimeter, and then you have like your zoom lenses to give a very basic breakdown of the different types of lenses that you have. What most agents should be shooting with, and what I shoot with, is a wide angle lens, and it's measured in millimeters. So this is a 10 to 18 millimeter. I don't know if you can see that on there,
Eh,
but
a
either
little
way,
bit.
it says 10 to 18 millimeters. So what that means is when I shoot at 10 millimeters, and that's typically what I shoot at when I'm shooting the rooms and everything. So that gives me a wide angle. Can't see it on my screen, but it gives me a wide angle of view, so you can capture the entire room. If I'm using my cell phone, and literally, I wish I had an example to show you, but when I was shooting a house the other day, I had the shot set up, and I took my phone and put it up there just to kind of see what the difference would be with my phone. And
Mhm,
I was taking a photo of the dining room, and there's a big nice dining room table in the center.
mhm.
So with my lens, I'm selling the dining room. I'm showing the entire dining room,
Yeah.
including the chairs and the room around it, and the you know what's that thing called where they put all the plates? I can't even think of what.
Like a
Yeah, like a china
China
cabinet
cabinet?
or something.
Yeah.
And so then I put my phone up there, and the only thing what I'm selling when I'm taking the picture through my phone is just the table.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was just, and I've seen pictures like that. I actually listed a condo where some of the pictures that were on there, it was like, okay, well, are you just selling this couch, or are you selling the condo? Because it was literally just a picture of the couch.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, if I don't know if we need to put this couch on Craigslist, but it shouldn't be on the MLS.
Should it be on the
So,
MLS? Yeah.
right. So it was just it's those kind of things. So that's where the wide angle lens comes into play. Now there's other things, other you can use other lenses to do more creative things. If you're doing a zoom lens, or um, you start
Mhm.
messing with things called like depth of field, and getting those, the blurry background kind of stuff. And those
Yeah.
are those are fun things to do, but at a minimum, wide angle lenses is what anybody should be shooting to, or using to shoot real estate photography.
Mm, right.
So
And, yeah, those in depth of capturing, those, like, details with the blur in the background, that definitely goes with the level of the clientele that you have, such as, like, a luxury listing. You definitely go a little bit of more of a nuance, and further details on particular elements, such as, like, a stove or a bathroom versus, um the whole room itself. So you want to get the whole room, but then you also want to highlight almost like a kind of like a magazine. If you flip through a magazine, sometimes you'll see um, like the oh my god, like a dining room table, and you'll have it all set up, and the rest of the background is blurry.
yep,
And they'll just say like capturing, it's they do things like that, but it's just goes into the level of quality that goes
yep,
into it. But the basic minimum three, as of right now's world, is just good photos,
yep,
3D tour, and a video of some capacity. Whether it's just you outside of it saying, "Hey, I'm standing outside here, my new listing XYZ, go take a look at it," or you actually doing a quick walkthrough with the phone of some
yep,
degree.
yep,
Not everyone can front these expenses with the unless you're full time. You've been in it for a long time, like Jared and I have been.
right. Another comment from Liesel. So she was asking. So we were talking about staging. So who would pay for that staging? Um, Essentially,
Depends on the staging.
yeah, it depends on the staging. If it's actual staging, there's typically that's going to come out of, I mean, the client's end,
Hmm.
depending on what kind of house,
Well,
or sometimes if it's a high end house, sometimes the agent will take care of that.
yeah.
What's your
It,
thoughts?
I think is based on the negotiation between the realtor and the seller.
Right,
There are realtors who already have a company they do on
right,
the side, and they
right.
can go ahead. Oh, don't worry, we'll take care of this for
Yep,
you, or they'll refer a vendor, or they'll split the cost. And it's open to interpretation and negotiation. There's nothing set in stone on who pays for it.
right. Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm getting at is, it just depends. Sometimes the agent might pay for it, sometimes, the person
Yep.
listing the house may pay for it. That's actual staging, virtual
Hmm.
staging. If that
I
would
take
just
care of it.
depend on, yeah, it depends on what I'm being compensated on my end. So if I'm getting a full 3%, then and we need to virtually stage this thing, yeah, I'm going to throw that in there because it's going to help. It's going to help me sell your house for more money.
Yeah.
I'm going to be able to up that price a little bit. So,
Yep, I agree. I when it comes to virtual staging, if I go that route, if the home is vacant, I definitely go ahead and just front that cost
yeah,
as part of the. It's just an additional editing, additional
right,
service you got to pay for.
yeah,
And I'm just like, it's. I'm not gonna have them pay for that. I'll take care of it. I'm right here in the system. I'm not gonna go through the whole leaps and bounds to it.
right.
Doesn't make sense.
Um, and then Liesel mentioned, so Todd, that's her husband. Todd measures by centimeters too. So I'm not really sure, Liesel, what you're getting at there, but
No,
um,
that
I'm not gonna. Let's just move on past
I
that.
agree. Let's move past that one. Oh
Look, I
my
don't
god,
know the
that's so
conversion
funny.
between centimeters and inches, so we're just
And or meters or
or
millimeters.
or whatever it might be. Let's just move
Yeah.
on. Um,
Okay. So
so
let's explain what we offer.
yeah.
Unless you have
Um,
something else. I'm sorry.
well, so one of there are a lot of the things that we do. So we talked about what, at a minimum, what agents should offer.
Yeah.
What Chris and I both do is we do that as well as so we're shooting high end photos. We're doing the high quality video, sometimes 4K. Most of the time, I start shooting the video in 4K. By the time it goes through all the channels and gets out to the proper websites and everything, it's usually back down to 1080 on the resolution. And then you've got the 3D, you have Zillow 3D tours, and then you have Matterport 3D tours. We're going to talk about that here in just a minute. Um, Property websites. What am I missing here, Chris?
Well, social media
So yeah,
advertising.
so social media, and as far as digital assets, that's what we do, and then all that stuff gets translated into
Mhm.
advertisements through
Yeah.
social media.
As well as print media and
Yes.
marketing. If
Yep.
there's a particular neighborhood that has a pretty high turnover rate, and chances are, like your neighbors know who's looking to move to the area before anybody else.
Yep.
So if you get the listing early enough and the photography and the marketing, I don't know about you, but it's a little bit tricky to kind of get it all timed out because print media takes a while.
It
It takes
does.
like a solid week, 2 weeks,
It
and by
does.
then the house should already be kind of listed at that point.
Yes. Yep.
So
Yeah, and I mean my main focus is digital assets and then
yeah,
digital advertising. So because that's going to get to the most amount of people the quickest
correct. I
versus
agree.
print media and things like that. It's a lot of mailers, it's a lot of things like that. So
Yeah,
it's not something I spend a whole lot of time on.
yeah,
But it is still something that we do just to make sure that we uh,
hmm,
cover all the basis points.
yeah.
Um,
And it's also what the seller wants. It's like I want you
correct.
to do this, I want you to do that, and it's like, and if
Correct.
that's in your wheelhouse and it's within your capability,
Yep.
awesome,
Yep.
oblige.
Yep. Exactly. Um, well, so we're talking about digital media. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is just how exactly we shoot a house, with our cameras. So I've got some examples here. So, um,
Unfortunately, I can't see it on my
oh,
side.
you can't see them.
No, I
If
can't
you
see it on my side.
Can you go to the live feed, maybe?
Every time that I try to circle back to it, with all honesty, it gives me a like kind of an error.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, obviously people are seeing it, but for some reason it's not. When I look at my own side, I can't do it. I don't
Okay.
know why, but
Um,
I
well,
trust it.
so
Just
what
tell
I've
me what
got
we're
up
looking at.
here, so what I've got up here is I've got an aerial shot. And so when I do aerials, when I do ground photos, so we're going to talk about, let me go back to, so we're going to go back to, or never mind. So when we do those, when we do those things, so I shoot in brackets of 5. And what that means
Yes.
is it's shooting. different exposure values on that same. So when I set my camera up, I set it for the scene, I set it for the shot, and then it takes 5 different exposure values. And that's what I'm going to show you an example of real quick. So that's what I've got up on the
Mhm.
screen. So this is in particular an aerial photo that I did with my Mavic 2S, or my Mavic, I'm sorry, Mavic Air 2. And I thought I had it out over here. I don't. Um, but so as I click through, you can see the different exposures. There's a dark one, there's an even lighter one, and then there is the final version. And so what that allows me to do is um, it allows us to take those photos and capture highlights and shadows and things like that and create one uniform lit photo, so to speak. And I'll show you a couple more examples here. So here's or what were you gonna say, Chris?
I was gonna say just kind of capitalize on that. So that uniform image showcases, like he was saying, the darks, the shadows, and the brights and the whites.
Yep.
And putting that all together makes it a very cohesive, clean image.
Yes.
Because if you take an image, a lot of millennials, they'll take a photo and they'll immediately start editing it because they realize that you have this capability in our phones to take it and put it into a cleaner, adjust the brights, the contrast, the shadows to make it better even lit. So what we're doing with the brackets of 5 is taking that dark exposure and all the way to that bright exposure and pulling it together to make one just beautiful image.
Right. Yep. Um, so then here's another trick that we do. So this one in particular, this is a condo that I shot. And I'm actually doing property management. So this is a condo that I'm managing. We've just got it listed, available for rent. So if you're interested, give me a call. Um, but so I went and took this photo, and it's a penthouse condo in the Sherwin complex. So and it's got a really really nice view over the ocean. So what happens a lot of times is when you're taking these, so the camera lens can't actually see inside the room and outside through like a glass, because
Yeah.
it doesn't work the same way as our eyes do. So you can see in the picture that I have on the screen, and Chris, what it is, it's a picture of a living room, and you can see the living room just fine, but you can't see through the glass sliding
Yeah.
door,
It's
and
overexposed.
it's overexposed. And then there's a nice ocean right on the other side. So you want to be able to show both sides of that. And so here's, the different exposures that we talked about, that bracket of 5. And then what I do is, and there's different techniques. There's a lot of different ways that you can do this. I usually take a really dark, not really dark, but I've got one up on the screen. I get it dark enough to where now the camera can see out of that window. It's no longer overexposed. However, the living room is really dark now.
Yep.
But this next picture here, this is the resulting picture from that. So you have a
Mhm.
really nice, evenly lit living room, and then you can also see out of that glass, the sliding glass
Yeah.
door. You can see the ocean, you can see the clouds. Everything
Yep.
is uniform, just as if you were standing there and you're looking at it with your
Yep.
eyes.
Yeah. I like to call it a window pull. So
Yes.
you're pulling
Yep.
the window and you're bringing it back into it. So
Exactly.
there's a couple, like you said, a couple ways to be able to capture that, and to be able to do that definitely changes things, because you can, if without that window pull, you're just staring at a room with a very very bright white spot, and
Yes.
it's not appealing to the eyes. You can't really make it out. It's distracting.
Yep.
So being able to do that, and one of the things that we've learned to do is that window pull, and it
Yep.
just changes the whole dynamic
Yep.
whatsoever. It makes a very beautiful shot.
Yes. And it's very important when you have really
That
nice
view.
views,
Yep.
especially on a penthouse looking over the ocean, and
Yes.
the water is nice, it's a nice color, and you want to be able to
Mhm.
show that. Having just a white blur does does it no good.
No.
It does it no
Yep.
satisfaction. So
Doing disservice to the view.
exactly.
And
Um
to your homeowner
yes.
who's trying to
So then
sell it.
here's another example. Got the different exposures, and then this last shot where you can see again an evenly lit room, and then you can see out the window.
Mm. It's very easy to do with still shots. Videography, I'm not too familiar of a way to be able to expose inside as well as the outside.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to do.
Yeah, so video
But
is
you
going to
gotta
be
have
a
the talent.
little bit different. You got to have high-end
Yeah,
cameras,
yeah,
and you
those are
got to
expensive.
have they get you know 5,000 plus,
Thousands. Yeah.
dollars. And so there are ways to do it. There's different, settings and things that you can do to try to limit um that overexposure through a window, but it's never there's a lot more you can do with still photos than you can do
Hmm.
with video. Video is a little bit more difficult. Well, so think about you have one photo that you have to edit versus in a video, you have thousands of frames, thousands of photos that you have to edit each one of those. So there's a lot more to the video side of things.
Favorite sound in the
Here's
world.
there you go.
Did you hear it?
I did. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to crack mine open. This is a new bottle I got sitting behind me.
Yeah, you got Glenlivet. Is that what I'm reading?
Yeah,
Is that what I see?
it's a Glenlivet. It's a Founder's Reserve.
Oh man.
It's good stuff. It's not crazy expensive, and I don't feel guilty if I throw a couple ice cubes in there.
Yeah. Well, some of these like scotches, they say you should put like a cube or two in there so the water actually helps the flavor.
Yes. Yep. Oh,
Unless I've been lied my whole life.
a very wise professional Scotch drinker or whatever you want to call him. He was telling me we're talking about putting the drops of water into your whiskey and you kind of swirl it
Yes.
around and it does, it changes the flavor and everything. But he asked me a question. He said, all right, you put the drop in there, and he asked, I'm gonna see if you know, Chris, how long are you supposed to swirl the whiskey?
No clue. I'll guess. Maybe 10 seconds.
You only swirl it till somebody sees you, and then they think you know what you're doing, and then you take a sip. You cheers them and you
Okay.
take a sip. So you swirl it until
Uh-huh.
somebody sees you, and then you take your sip. So
Good to know.
yeah,
I'll make sure I do that. Swirl until somebody sees you. Okay.
that's right.
I can remember that.
So in other words, it doesn't matter how much you swirl it. It's going to mix in, and most people that are doing it, because this guy, I mean, he had thousands of dollars worth of scotch in his house. He's been studying this stuff, sort of like a sommelier for wine.
That's
And
awesome.
he said it really does nothing when you swirl it, because by the time you drip it in there and you get it up to your mouth, it's already mixed in. The molecules are already changing and everything. So
that's awesome.
but I thought that was funny.
So, so I'm gonna stick on whiskey here for a little bit. I just started getting into whiskeys like in the past month and a half. Like really started to get to, because beer is just starting to lose it from me, and I end up having to drink a lot of it, and just not healthy for me. So I've switched over to whiskey because I definitely have enjoyed it more. And since then, I have discovered some awesome stuff. And tonight, I'm actually drinking something simple: the Knob Creek Single Barrel Select Bourbon.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yep. And so pretty much we have a local store that I like to go to called Legacy Liquors off 1792. And so this one was barreled in 2011 and picked by the store in 2020. It's 120 proof. It's delicious.
Very nice.
I remember the bottle.
I'll have to.
Is it over? What's that?
Is it fairly cheap, or is it?
Yeah, it's a family owned. They have multiple locations, Legacy Liquors, so their prices are not jacked up where you would find Total Wine to be cheaper or ABC Liquor to be cheaper. Like these prices are super competitive to Total Wine and ABC.
Oh, very nice.
They've introduced me. They're great people. They've introduced me to some amazing whiskeys, and I got a bottle of Macallan 12 sitting outside there, and I've gotten some Japanese whiskey that just blew my mind. And have you heard of Whistle Pig?
No.
Okay, look up Whistle Pig. They got a 6-year called the Piggyback. They got a 10-year in 18, and then a thing called the Boss Hog. I think that's everything that I'm thinking of. But over the weekend, I got to try the 18-year, and wow, there was no burn. There was
Yeah.
no burn
Yep.
whatsoever. It was the smoothest whiskey I've ever had in my
Yep.
life.
Yeah, those are nice. So
Delicious.
I'm not a big uh I'm not a big smoky fan. Like if it gets too like it's been in the oak barrel too long or anything,
Mhm.
it's I'm not a big fan of that. Like some of those what's those Johnny Walkers and things, some of
Oh,
those just get overly smoky for me. This one is just it's not smoky, it's just it's pretty smooth. So,
haven't had Glenlivet yet.
no,
No,
it's good
it's on my
stuff.
list. It's
Yep.
on my list. I have a running list
Okay.
of
Yep.
things to get. I'm building out my bar right now.
There you go.
My
Nice.
liquor. Yeah,
Nice.
for sure.
Uh
All right, let's get back
um
on track here.
all right. Yeah. I just sent
So,
you I sent you the
oh yeah.
link to the video. Maybe see if you can click on that to see if it comes up, or does it still give you
Okay.
a is still
Yeah,
giving you
because I
an
definitely
error?
want to be able to see the images. Like everything that
Yeah.
you're saying, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I can
Right.
pretty much comment it off the top of the cuff. But give me a second.
All right. Well, while
Let me
he's
see.
looking at that, so I do have some examples of some shots that I've done. I think I put some of yours in here too. There was so many, and it
Okay.
I don't remember now. But is it coming up for you?
No, it's not.
No,
Unfortunately,
that's so
it's
weird.
just keeps giving me an issue. I think it's like knowing that I'm being a part of this broadcast. I don't know. It's being a jerk.
Okay, all right.
I'll have to go
Um,
back. But just tell me what the image is because I sent you everything, so I know what it
all right.
is.
Well, these are when I get to. I think I added yours in here. I can't remember now. But these are just some examples. So this is one that I took over in Inverness for another agent. So when I go out and do photos, I take my mirrorless. So I use a Sony mirrorless camera, and it's an A6500. That's the other thing I wanted to talk about with you, Chris. See what kind of equipment you were using.
Okay.
But so what I look for in when I'm shooting a house, especially a house like this. This particular property was uh it was a 2 or 3 million dollar property. And so but when I'm shooting these properties, I'm trying to find sort of a story. Or so this particular property, Chris, it's in the back of the house, there's a nice pool, there's a huge house, and then there's like a little stream that comes down in the front. And
Hmm.
um so I'm trying to
What's the
capture all.
address?
Yeah, it's shoot, I don't even remember. 2040 East Hampshire, I think it is. I think it's already been sold, but
Mhm.
it here's a couple other examples. This photo here, so I did it. This was getting in towards the evening, so I did something that's called a long exposure.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh wow, it just started raining. Um, so this one has a long exposure. If you can see the lake or that little pond there, it's kind of got like a glassy, blurred
Yeah.
effect to it. So what happens when you do a long exposure? What that means is you've increased your shutter speed to almost a second, or maybe a second or more, or whatever's needed for the shot. And then what happens is it gives that the waves coming through that pond. It gives it a sort of a glass blurred kind of look to it.
Yeah, the
So,
greatest example, everyone has seen these photos of like streams or rivers, and instead of it looking like actual water, it looks like everything is crystal clear, but the
mhm,
water itself looks like a giant blur. So
mhm,
the shutter is just remaining open for a prolonged period of time. So as it's staying open, the water is still running. So it's just blurring an image, and that's what's happening here.
right.
Um, that you can see. And if you
Yep,
even look at the trees, if you focus on the trees, you can see that the wind had
yep,
manipulated a
yep,
lot of the greenery,
yep,
forcing the palms to sway. So this is still a really cool shot because only those who have photography eyes can spot it right away.
right,
But other than that, it's a beautiful shot.
right. Thank you. And but then the goal with these kind of photos is to have these gotcha photos, if you want to call them that. But the ones, so when somebody's scrolling, because when you're scrolling, you're looking at houses, you're just scrolling by. And then as soon as you see a photo that catches your eye, you're like, hold on a second. I need to go back
Yep.
and look at that again. And so what you're hoping to do is with these style photos is draw them in to look at more, and then look at the details of the house, and then go into your 3D tour and your video and all that. So really your photos are, I don't know, what do you think? I mean, in my opinion, your photos are almost your front line, your, what's going to
Yeah.
initially draw somebody in. So the photos are almost the most important, the most, the most crucial part of the marketing of a
Yeah.
digital asset.
I couldn't agree more. And although like video is reigning, like it reigns like almost like supreme in terms of like the social media platforms,
Hmm.
but when people are surfing through realtor.com, Zillow, or your local MLS, the first thing that's stopping you is the actual photo itself. That's the first engagement. So that first photo needs to really stand out in a very positive manner to be able to merit a click, especially if it's in the price point, the size rooms, the size of the house, the location, all these things they're already looking at. So if that image stands out, they're going to be looking through it for the first 3, 4 clicks, 5 clicks, 6 clicks, all the way to the end. And then they're like, honey, I want to go see this house.
Right.
So, and then if you have the video walkthrough or a 3D walkthrough, that's just going to solidify it more because then they're able to digitally walk through the house through the 3D. Zillow has this, Matterport has this. Matterport, I would argue, is the better quality in terms of a 3D walkthrough.
Yep.
However, majority of buyers are on Zillow and they
Right.
have their own walkthrough that just seems to hit the masses
Yep.
more so.
Yep. I agree. Lisa, I'll just ask, how's the whiskey? The
Delicious.
whiskey
Which one?
is amazing.
Yeah. I need an ice cube on mine.
Yeah.
So, but I'm
If
drinking
you
it
want to,
neat.
I am too. I usually have a couple ice cubes, but this works too. Usually after
Mhm.
I can do a couple ice cubes on the first one, and then after that, I'm okay. I can go neat.
Yeah. Just get that palate coated a little bit and you're good to go.
Exactly. Let me
You
show
did a
you a
great
couple
job with
more.
this photo, man. With that, I'm still going through Iverson here on Hampshire. That's a
Oh, okay.
beautiful house. Well shot.
Here's so in some of the interior photos. So here's another one that I did for this was the staircase right through the front door. So
Mm-hmm.
another thing what I'm looking for when I'm doing photography is you're trying to either have those lead in lines, and that's a whole nother, how to shoot photography is a whole nother podcast, or it's a
Yeah,
whole
I
nother
agree.
episode.
Let's not too far into the weeds.
But for this one in particular that's on the screen, so there's other things that you look for is symmetry. And with the staircase, that's kind of what I was going for, is you have the staircase right in the middle, and then you have equal things on both sides to kind of help weigh it out. So almost if
Mhm.
you were going to put it on a scale, it's going to be balanced right in the center.
Yep.
And that's kind of what I was going for on that one.
Yeah, if you go a couple more images, you can actually see, for anybody who's kind of following along, the address is 2040 East Hampshire Street in Inverness. And you can go to, say, like image 23, where it's the top of the staircase looking at the chandelier down. And you can just
Yep.
see it's so aesthetically pleasing to the eye when you're looking at this because it's
Yep.
centered, everything itself around it. So the people who are the architect of this house, they knew they wanted everything to be symmetrical.
Symmetrical. I lost you. Chris, I lost you. All right. So, yeah, Chris, I can't hear you anymore. I don't know what happened. I don't know if maybe you want to click out and then rejoin. But so moving on. So these are a couple more photos. So this one in particular here, again, this was the master bedroom. Again, looking out the window. We talked about how to shoot the photos, and it was, it's a blur, but then you do that dark shot, and then you're able to see out the window. Another thing that I usually do is a TV screen replacement. So if you see the what's on the TV screen, that's actually a picture of the outside. So that's another. Yep,
Can you hear
I
me?
can hear you now. Um, so that's a picture that I took of the outside of the pool, and then you overlay that onto the TV screen. So it's kind of an added bonus when somebody's flipping through. pictures on a particular listing, and then they're like, wait a second, that looks like the outside. And so it's kind of a nice little surprise when people are going through the house and they see those kind of things. um, let's see what else. Another one here. So then this was kind of a fun shot, with the pool table, and then the pool table is in focus, and then kind of everything is blurred in the background. So I was kind of messing with what we call depth of field. And what happens is everything in the foreground becomes, almost hyper focused, and then everything in the background is sort of blurred out. And that's kind of what I was doing with this photo here. You got the pool table here in the foreground, it's in focus, and then everything is just slightly out of focus beyond that. Let's see what else we got. So those are some examples of the interior photography that we did for that house. And then the next thing is twilights. Do you do twilights at all of your?
Yeah, regardless of price point, really. And I kind of say that respectfully because I recently listed one that was in a low 200s, and it just screamed needed a twilight because the grounds was so pretty that it was just like and manicured. I was like, this has to have a twilight. So I am a big fan of twilight, especially if the landscape is like flawless or requires it.
Yep. And what I'm talking about, so here's a couple examples of twilights. This is that same house. This is the backside where the pool is, and you got everything lit up. You've got the sky, a nice glow to the sky and everything. Kind of that sunset feel, some clouds coming across, kind of wisping across the sky there. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about twilights. Why isn't that going to the next one? There we go. So then here's an example of, so Chris, what I have up there is the before photo. So this is a photo of another house I did in Inverness. So you have the before photo, and it's kind of dark. It's kind of, there's you can't really tell what's going on. And then here's the after photo. So then everything is lit up. Again, you got the sky with the orange feel. You have the glow from the outside house lights and everything like that. So there's a lot going on, but to most people, they just see it and they're like, oh, that's a really cool photo. To other photographers, they see it and they're like, oh, wow, that, they actually put some work into it and they made it look really nice. However, my goal with this photo is to capture somebody who's just scrolling really fast and they're like, oh, what was that? That's like a professional. That's a really good looking photo. Let me go see more of that. And then they come in and that draws them into the house. And then they're like, oh, this is really nice. I want to buy a $2 million house now.
Yeah, right. I think we all want to buy a $2 million house at some point. Right. I think that's a life goal for many people.
Yep. Yeah.
Completely attainable too.
Here's another before and after photo. This was of the pool in the back with the lights on the giant porch at this house. Here's another one from that 2040 East Hampshire. This is the twilight. If you still have it up, Chris.
I do.
The one with the it has a fountain in front, and then it's got the house in the background. And again, long exposure, the sky, because it was getting dark. And so when we shoot twilights, there's a couple different ways to do it. The way I did this one was the more difficult way, or you actually have to wait.
Your first way.
Right. You actually have to wait for the twilight. You have to wait for that time of day. And that's just when the sun is just going down below the horizon. You have about 30, maybe 40 minutes of sunlight where you can start getting these kind of photos. And then, so that's the way I've shoot most of my stuff. However, there's kind of I don't want to call it a cheat way, but there is an alternative way if you can't be there, after sunset, or there's a couple things, you can take it during the day, but there's still some requirements. You don't want to have any shadows on the ground and things like that. And there's still some technique to it. You can't just go shoot a photo and then poof, you have a twilight. You still have to do some editing, even more editing on when you're cheating, when you're doing them during the day versus if you're doing them properly and they come out way better if you just wait
It
until
does.
sunset.
Anybody who's into music or like kind of grew up knows that all music was recorded on tape, and
Hmm.
nowadays is recorded digitally. So think of this right here, what he's done, and I could tell just from looking at the fountain that he did it analog. So essentially, you just sit there, you take the photo, you take your brackets, and then or a long prolonged exposure. Wait 2 minutes, take another one, wait another
Yep.
2 minutes, all the
Yep.
way until the sun goes down, and then
Yes.
you combine the image to,
Correct.
or if you want the sky of this one here, and or you want the lights of this, and you
Yes.
blur it all together.
Yep.
Whereas the digital aspect is like Jerry was saying, you take it during the day, and then essentially you just do virtual manipulations. You change the
Right.
background, you darken the color tones a little bit, or just the contrast with the brightness, and then you start adding lights where lights are put. So if you're looking at the house here, they would add lights with the starburst effect, and they would go in and to turn on all the lights, and but it's really just a screen, and you can just see it. Whereas this is just a beautiful shot of just patience, and every couple of minutes taking a shot, a
Yep.
prolonged shot. So
Yep.
this is the analog way, the
Yes.
nice, warm, beautiful way versus the digital way,
Yep.
which is obvious.
Yes. And here's a couple more that I did. And here's another one of the back. So this one it's the one I've got two chairs, the patio chair, the pool chairs sitting in the back. So it's kind of you get that symmetrical look to it, and you got the pool, and then you got the house. And so this one, again, it's done sort of in the same way that Chris just described. Um, the hard part with these is, again, you only have about 30 or 40 minutes. So for me, and it's not a small property. So for me to shoot this one and get the exposure that I wanted, and then I've got to grab the camera. I'm literally running from the
Run.
back of the house to the front of the house, setting up my shot again. So I've already mapped out what shots I wanted to take.
Mhm.
So because you don't have time to go and put your camera in 5 different places and figure out that
No.
you don't have the shot, that you want. You have to know exactly where you're going to put your camera. So you have to pre-plan a little bit.
Yep. And
And
you have to memorize the image on the screen too. You
yes,
can't be off by a little bit. It's got to be like
right.
almost perfect.
Yep. So, I mean, cropping does help with that a little bit, but
Yes, it does.
um, so here's another before and after.
Yeah, I've had to do that a
Uh,
couple times where we just run from the backyard to the front yard, backyard to the front yard,
yep.
backyard to the front yard. And it's
Yep.
just like for 30 minutes, by the end of it, you're drenched in your own sweat. And being that this is Florida, if you're doing it during the summertime,
Yep.
you're loaded with mosquito bites and sweat.
Yes.
Fun times.
I
Fun
know.
times.
We are so we're running up on about an hour right now. So let's
Okay.
push through the rest of the stuff here. Aerial shots. What kind of drone do you use, Chris?
I actually use the office drone, which is a Phantom 2, I think.
Okay.
A Phantom. So that's the drone. I actually don't own my equipment. I actually lend out the equipment from our office.
Yep.
And so it's a Canon D60, and that's the one that I use, or the Canon D80, whichever is in there. That is what I use for the photos.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a Ryko that helps with the 3D. I have a Matterport subscription, so I pay $10 a month for that. And then I also leverage the same thing for Zillow. And then we have our own gimbal system here in the office, and I use that for, say, video with the cell phone, or I'll use the camera itself and go through that route.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, but definitely, it's by the end of the year, I'm looking to get my own equipment.
Yep. Yep. So one of the things, so a lot of agents don't actually do their own drone shots because they're not certified. That is a big deal. You have to be certified. If you're going to do any sort of aerial work with a drone, you have to be certified. It's called Part 107 certification. Is done through the FAA. And if you're not certified and you get caught, I mean, there's pretty hefty fine.
Yeah,
that could come with that.
It's not a felony, is it?
I don't know.
But they could definitely fine you, and they can charge you for sure.
And especially if you don't know what you're doing as far as flying in airspace. I mean, aside from the fine, if you were to crash into another airplane or something, then I mean you're just talking about all kinds of issues. So you really have to be
Oh
familiar.
yeah.
So again, there's just a handful of agents that are actually certified drone pilots. I'm one of them. Chris, obviously you're one of them, right? Or do you have your no? Oh, okay.
No, I'm doing it very. Thanks for calling me out there,
Oh
Jared.
shoot, my bad. No, I'm just
Sorry, I
kidding.
have Shane. Shane is certified. He's
Yeah.
a colleague of ours. He's certified. He just got his license,
Okay.
so he's been doing a lot of my drones lately, just because I don't want to get caught.
Gotcha.
But before then, I was just before they really cracked down on drones.
Yeah.
I was doing it myself.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
so I actually do a trick now, in order to get high up. I think Jared, you have a couple of my photos where it seems very high, like where it should be a drone. And what I'm doing is that I'm backing my car up into the place I want to be, and I stand on my trunk, and
Yes.
I extend the camera as far as I can, as long as I can, and I turn the brackets to 10 seconds, and I sit there and I hold it up and I just stand still until it takes all 5 shots. And so it gets a very high angle and it comes to like a beautiful, looks like an aerial position. So that's my method. And if I don't have access to it, so if I'm in the backyard, I'll go ahead and actually just kind of do the same thing. Just stand here, stand still, and just take the shot.
Is it the one well there's so I have one up here. It's of the back, it's in the backyard. I think you did a twilight of this one too. And it looks sort
Yes.
of like an elevated shot.
Yeah.
Almost like maybe you had it on your tripod and then you pushed it up.
Hmm.
You held it up. Is that
Yeah. If it's a beige or like a beige house with a patio
Yep.
in it and it's twilight, yeah, that's the one that I had 30 offers on in 4 days.
Oh wow. Dang.
Yeah.
30
And if
offers.
you so that one's 630 Rookery Avenue in Deltona. So if you actually go inside the house, for anybody that's curious, there's nothing glamorous about this house. Nothing.
Right.
Really, it's not updated. It's got carpet. It's got original bathrooms and kitchen, and it's just immaculately maintained. It's super clean, and the photos kind of spoke for itself. I did everything that we've talked about so far, with the exception of the aerials. I just kind of faked it,
Right.
but it got the message across, and because of that, and over 90% of buyers are online, I got the draw.
Yep.
And I got them. We were at 235 list price 235, contract price 260 with the appraisal waived. So it doesn't matter what the appraisal comes in at. The sellers are going to make an additional 25,000 more than what they originally had hoped for.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's crazy how it makes that big of a difference.
It does. Because imagine if I took regular cell phone photos, I'm sure I would have gotten a couple offers, but if not at least one. But because of the level of the quality that we take into it, that was the result.
Yep.
That's just indisputable.
Yeah. Well, so then one of the things I want to talk about was just
Sorry
how
for the
much
rant.
it actually. Oh no worries. How much it actually costs to
or the brag
to do all of these photos. So I do photos on the side for a lot of real estate agents. My company, Dronafide Pilots, is, there's a plug on my own show for Dronafide Pilots. So if you're a real estate agent and you need some photography, I do it. And so most agents will spend typically right around maybe $400 pushing it on, and typically they'll get photography. Sometimes aerials, I'll have to kind of push them on, depending on the area. I mean, sometimes it's easy. I shot one house where all they wanted was photography. I showed up and I'm like, dude, you're 6 houses down from the intercoastal here, from the Halifax River. I can't capture that from the ground. I have to capture that from the air.
Mhm.
So you're crazy not to get them. However, you're the one listing the house. So if you don't want them, that's up to you. So I talked them into it. So you got ground photos, we got aerials. By the time you get into video and Zillow 3D and the Matterport 3D, and then doing a property website, and what I mean by that is your property has its own dedicated website where it's like 123fakestreet.com, and it has all the digital media, it has all the information about the house, and it helps with coming up on search engine like Google and stuff. And it also is only your house. It's not Zillow where there's your house and then 5,000 other houses right below it that people can go to. Once they're on your
Yeah.
website, it's only your house. So by the time you get done with all that, you're easily spending, like I said, most agents are spending $300 to $400. When I come in there and when Chris comes in there and we do it ourselves, that allows us to save, and we're doing the full work. So let me tell you what it would cost to do the full works. And I'm talking anywhere from $800, depending on what kind of, and a lot of that depends on what kind of video and the size of the
Mm.
house and things like that. But I'm talking $800 to $2,000 on some of these houses, depending on what you're doing. But and if it's high end photos, uh, the high end video, Matterport 3D, Zillow 3D, and then you're doing twilights, which means you have to be there after through
Mhm.
sunset. So that's added cost because now you have to be there for that time. So you're talking anywhere from 800 to literally $2,000 on just a single house. The nice thing is what I do, what Chris does, is we do all that stuff. So guess what? We don't have to spend. We don't have to spend $2,000 on all these digital assets because we do them ourselves.
Yeah.
So who do you think is going to do more marketing? The person that just saved $2,000 or the person that only wanted to spend, he didn't even want to spend $300, but I talked him into it
Mhm.
because I told him he needs aerials. So now he's spending $300 on this
Yeah.
house. So who do you think is going to spend more money on pushing all that media out there? And I'm going to take pride
Yeah.
in it because this is a house that I'm shooting, I'm listing,
Yeah.
and I want to, not only do I want to help you sell your house, but I also want to brag a little bit and show the kind of photos that I'm taking and show the video. I want to show it off to other people.
Yeah. And it just
And
shows its quality, its consistency, its reputation. Yeah.
right. Yeah. So it's just, so going back to what we originally talked about, when you're interviewing those real estate agents, at a minimum, just ask them what kind of digital assets are they
Mhm.
providing, and
What kind of
if it's
marketing? Show
what
me
kind of
proof.
exactly, have them show you proof, and if they're not if they're not doing more than just photos and video, at least give me a call or give Chris a call and
Yeah.
just talk to. I mean,
Yeah.
we're you don't have to use this as an agent, but at least give us a
Mhm.
call, give us an opportunity to show you the difference between what
Yeah.
we're going to do and what another
Yeah.
agent is going to do.
Yeah. It's a lot of people forget that we're actually public servants. We're licensed by the state.
Correct.
So therefore we're actually a public servant. So there are plenty of people who are self-interest. Like that doesn't matter where you go, no matter what job you do. But those who, such as Jared and myself and many others, we take pride in the quality as well as the care. So like it doesn't hurt to reach out and say, hey, like I'm interviewing these agents. I like this person. He's a good person. I'm gonna give him a shot, but he doesn't have the quality photos. Like what should we be looking for? Like just pick our brains. It makes no difference to us as a professional to pick our brains, and if you're gonna go with us or not,
Right.
you know. So
Lisa,
just
which agent were you talking about? Are you talking to me or are you talking about Chris? Because we can give you our numbers, but if you're talking about another agent, then well, I can't help you there.
come on, man. We're just gonna backtrack on everything I just
Right.
said.
um, let me so going back to, so again, doing all those things, one thing we haven't shown an example of is, let me just show you what Matterport. So um Chris, let me send you the link for it here.
Okay.
If it'll, hopefully it'll pop up there for you. um
Yeah. Let's see here.
all right, so I'm on
Angel
this is
Penthouse.
the Angel Penthouse. This is the condo that I'm managing. And so this is the Matterport. Let me go full screen on this. So
I
this is
love
Matterport.
Matterport.
What
And you'll
Matterport?
see I'm sorry. Like, and Jared, can you also share or right after this, or we'll do a side by side contrast between this and Zillow? Do you have one for Zillow?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Okay, definitely pull that up, and you people will be able to tell instantly the quality difference between Matterport and Zillow. Like the bare minimum should be Zillow, but to have
Correct.
Matterport just provides that clarity, quality, and it shows 100%.
Yep.
So
So the way Matterport works is it allows you to go through the house, and literally as you're standing there, you can see how I'm scrolling around on my screen, and you see these little circles on the ground. If I click that, it takes me as if I just walked into the next room, and then I can walk through the entire house. The other thing I can do is I can view dollhouse. So with that, I see basically the floor plan. I can see all the walls, all the rooms, and how they're separated, and I can scroll around and see how everything is laid out. And then you have the top-down view, which gives you that, typical, or that uh, floor plan view, that top-down floor plan view. The other nice thing that you can do, and it's maybe not as important on this particular house, but you can actually take measurements.
yes, I was
So
just gonna say that.
yes, so you can take measurements. So where if I wanted to see if my piece of furniture or my chairs or how long this breakfast bar was, for example, I'd click here and then I drag it. Kind of did it in the wrong spot, but I drag it across, and that says, right about 9 feet long. So, and that's about right. You know what? I haven't gone out and actually tested to see how accurate it is, but I imagine if
Uh,
they advertise it, it's probably accurate.
It's
It's
yeah,
pretty.
it's got to be accurate to a degree, 100% within at least a foot. And the cool thing about Matterport as well is it actually creates a floor plan, so you can actually see the dollhouse view and see the measurements and mess with the measurements. But there's also an added expense to where the camera itself will create the dimensions in a floor plan, so it looks like an actual blueprint of the space just as
Yes.
it is,
Yep.
from dimensions to dimensions, and it'll all be labeled as well. And it's the coolest thing. Matterport is one of the coolest things that has ever come to light. And Matterport was first of its kind before Zillow 3D Tour.
Correct.
Zillow 3D Tour had to jump on the bandwagon because this was just something mind blowing. And it
Yes.
shows. I'm messing around on the floor plan right now. And it's just so cool.
Yeah.
It's the coolest thing since sliced bread.
Yep. But then here's the thing: there's added cost to this. So this is
Yes.
this is going into that. We're spending upwards of $2,000 to get all the digital assets. So Matterport, it's not cheap. The actual camera cost right around $3,000 for the actual
Yep.
Matterport camera, and then on top of that, you have to buy a subscription service, which costs
Mhm.
anywhere from the low end of I think about $10 a month, but then the next step up
Yeah.
is I think about $65-$70 a month. So there's an
Yeah.
added cost to that we have to maintain. It's not like we can turn it on and turn it off to
Correct.
save $60, or whenever we're
Yeah.
done listing your house, we have to continuously pay for that. So
Yeah.
it
Correct.
is a service that's provided to us
Mhm.
that we pay for, but there's a lot of agents that don't want to
Don't
spend
want to. Yeah,
that
they're
money.
afraid to reinvest into the business, and
Correct.
that's just the difference again to between a professional and a hobbyist. And the thing is, like, we keep up this expense because it's one, it's cloud based, so we have access no matter what, and it just takes up more space on their servers that they need to continuously build out more and more for people to have access to this on a whim, because this is proof right here. This is actual proof. Like, here's all the 3ds that I did for the past 3 years,
Right.
and that's, and keeping up with that expense and
Right.
creating new doll houses and new floor plans is just all a continued added expense that
Yep.
professionals pay for, and they're
Yep.
happy to pay for it.
Yep. Now here's I've got your Zillow 3D up here. So this is Chris's house that he listed. What was the address on this one?
Which one is it?
Um,
Rookery or is it Fern Creek?
I don't see an
Oh, hold
address
on.
on here, but uh,
It's Fern Creek.
okay. So So yeah, the main
33 South Fern Creek. Yep.
okay. So the main
Sorry.
difference between Zillow, so Zillow is only through Zillow platform, the Zillow 3D, and it's through the Zillow product. You can share it, but it's not quite as interactive. The other thing, actually, let me mention this. I thought it was pretty cool with Matterport. You can actually, the Oculus virtual reality headset. You can actually use it with Matterport. So you put on the virtual reality headset and then actually walk through a house, which is it's pretty cool. Um,
Yeah.
but this is the Zillow 3D. So it's a little bit different layout. You have the arrows down here that allow you to navigate through the room, but there's
Hmm.
no floor plan view. There's no dollhouse view. There's no way to do
Yeah.
measurements. So pretty
And
much, and then go ahead.
it's like borderline fisheye,
It
and
is.
everything takes a little split second for it to load and for you
Yes.
to be able to look around.
It's not
So
as
like that's
smooth, not as
this, yeah,
crisp.
is a significant difference. And it's almost like
Yes.
it only has one point of focus until you actually move it around. There, thus creates that fisheye kind of concept.
Yes.
So you can see the difference. In Zillow 3D Home Tour is completely free to an agent. The only thing you have to purchase is a 3D camera, and that's essentially it.
Right.
Whereas a Matterport, it's worth its weight, 100%
Yep.
in gold just through quality wise. The only
Yep.
thing that's a burden is that you're only going to get the Matterport through, say, particular website or its own property address, whereas the public is stuck with this Zillow
Right.
Tour.
Right. Yeah, and it's like I said, but nonetheless, it's still something that
Mhm.
as an agent, me, I do the Zillow 3D as
Yeah,
well as the Matterport 3D. It's a little bit extra work. You have to go through the house
twice.
twice in order to get both of the things done. However, it's well worth it because I mean, let's face it, Zillow gets just millions of people coming through their website. So if I don't have, some awesome photos on there and I don't have video on there and I don't have the Zillow 3D tour, then Zillow isn't going to promote my listing. So whenever I list things, like
Correct.
one of my last listings, so they had it listed as a for sale by owner. This was one over in Venetian Bay. They had it listed as for sale by owner. It was on the market for about 22 days. They had about 1,500. I think it was about 1,500 views. So what I did is I took a snapshot because I knew as soon as I got a hold of it, the amount of views I was going to have on just Zillow was going to be significantly higher. So they had about 1,500. I took a snapshot in the same amount of days, 22 days later, I had just over 6,000 views in the same amount of time. So going
Mhm.
back to that point is the reason I did is because Zillow promotes it goes, they have an algorithm and it promotes, listings that have nice photos that have that uses all the platforms. So photos, video, and the Zillow 3D. And as long as they're good
Mhm.
quality, your listings are going to be at the top. And that's how I was able to get so many views on this particular listing.
Yep. Yep. And that's
So
why also with Facebook as well, like doing live videos is promoted first because they just want people to get onto that versus, Instagram live
mhm,
and then that's where it kind of go into the younger generation.
right.
And as an agent, we should be going after two generations, at least two
Right.
generations. The millennial
Yep.
generation that's now the predominant buyers, and then the hate to say the boomer generation that is predominantly selling at this time
Yep.
as well as
Yep.
buying. But
Yep.
they're the predominant sellers. The median age of a seller in the nation is 55.
Yep. Yeah.
So
Yep. So, um, what
what
else?
else we got?
What are we missing? Oh, what going back to here's some stats I'm throwing up here on the page here for
Okay.
Matterport. So millennial buyers now comprise 35% of all new home buyers on the market,
That's a
which
huge
means a
chunk.
higher demand for engaging, interactive, and mobile-ready content from real estate professionals.
Yep.
Uh, in the next in the next 2 years, 80% of millennials will seek to purchase a home, according to Trulia. That's
And
almost
then
67 million prospective buyers.
In the next, what, how many years?
in the next 2 years. I'm not
2
sure
years.
when
Okay.
this came out, but
Let's see.
um,
I'm at the beginning ages of the millennial. So, because I'm born in
yeah.
89, so I got to experience pre internet, and then I
Hmm.
got to see the development to what it is today.
Yep.
So, I would say, what's that? 31, 32 down to 28, 29.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know how the whole generation thing. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's a 10-year thing
Yeah. I don't know
or
how it all
more.
breaks down. I feel like sometimes I'm on the edge of I don't even know what I'm at.
Man, you got to see the rotary phone.
Yeah, I did. I did. I used to have actually I had a Mickey Mouse rotary phone at one point in my
Oh, that's
life,
great.
and but let me see if I got any more
If
comments.
there's not any more comments, I guess if you're going to be listing your house, you do not be afraid to ask your friend, because there are over 20,000 licensed agents in the state of Florida.
Yes.
Everyone has got a license. What
Yes.
you need to find out is how active are they? Are they full time or part time?
Hmm.
I'm all about giving a friend the chance, and chances are okay. But if you're serious about selling and making the most money, you have to go for a professional. And what you can do is ask for them to give a referral to your friend.
Right.
Give a
Yeah.
referral to your friend.
Yep.
That way, one, you're getting the professional services and you
Yep.
get to help out your friend.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
there's no harm in that.
Yep. Yeah, and typically that referral fee is 25% of
Yeah,
whatever
25 to
commission.
30. Yeah,
Yep.
25 to 30%, depending on which side of the commission. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I see that quite a bit where, it's like, oh, I've got a friend or my neighbor is an agent, and I feel bad if I don't use
Hmm.
them. But so what you really have to think about when it comes to choosing your agent is essentially, I mean, it's for most people it's a personal thing when they're selling their house. So, and they want to go with somebody that they're comfortable with.
Hmm.
However, that's not always going to be the best thing. You have to look at it as this is a business transaction. And
Hmm.
you want to get, when you bought the house, you didn't want to pay a lot of money for it, so you wanted an agent that was going to get you a really good deal. Now that you own the house, you want an agent that is going to sell it for the most amount of money possible, and you have to look at it like a business transaction where you
Yeah.
you don't, if you're running a business with people that aren't trying to make money and they're not really serious about it and they're just kind of doing it,
Yeah.
nonchalant, then you're going to get, essentially what you pay for. So,
Yeah.
but so when you're selling your house, you just have to treat it like that business transaction and get somebody in there that's going to
Yeah.
just, that's going to do it, especially
Yeah.
one that's going to do $2,000 worth of digital assets
Yeah. And
and
they're going to make
really
that money
promote it.
back. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for sale by owners, there's a good market. Right now, the market is great to for sale by owners because people are desperate. People are searching everything. So if you're priced right and you do halfway decent photos, you're going to be successful for sale by owner. But there's plenty of owners who just can't get around it, or just can't help the fact that they hire a professional because they've never experienced an actual professional, or they can't see why it should cost that much. So
Right.
listing agents who are essentially, oh, I'll do it for 1%, but you're going to have to pay a buyer's agent 2.5% or 3%.
Right.
So essentially, you're going to pay the person that represents you less than the person who's competing against you, which
Correct.
makes no sense. So
Right.
here's something that I'm absolutely I preach a lot. Cheap is expensive, and expensive is cheap.
Hmm.
Because the first time around you try to sell it for a cheap rate, you're gonna fail. And then next time you're going to pay someone who's expensive and they're going to do it right. So not only did you pay for the expensive agent, but you also paid for a cheap agent, and ultimately made you it also cost you more. So if you're going to sell your house and you're going to make money off of it and you want it to be successful as well as top dollar, you have to pay for that expense. And
Yes.
we get it done. Because for sale by owners, although the market is good right now for you, so long as you meet the three conditions that I mentioned earlier, Um, you're oh crap, I lost my train of thought.
Oh,
Shit. All
well,
right, continue.
here's
Come back to it.
so going back to like high quality photos. So another
Yeah.
stat that I pulled up for homes in the $200,000 to $1 million range, those that include high quality photos, not camera phone,
Yep.
high quality photos in their listings sell for approximately $3,000 to $11,000 more than homes that used one of these. So we're just talking about high quality photos. So now you start throwing in really good video, 3D tours, aerial shots. So now that $3,000 to $11,000 range starts bumping your price point up a little bit more,
Yeah.
because you're essentially you're selling your home online. You're not selling it in person. You're not, you're not going to get the chance to go to somebody and say how important this home and how much, value it has. That's all going to
Mhm.
be done through the digital assets.
Yeah.
So it's and Chris and I are not here necessarily to sell your home. We're here to market your home with those
Yeah.
digital assets. And that's a big difference between a lot of agents. Is agents come in and is like, oh man, I can sell your home, I can sell it. I'm gonna do
Mhm.
this, I'm gonna do that. Look, I'm not here to sell your home. I'm here to market it. Your home is gonna sell it, it's gonna sell itself by the time I'm done marketing. So
Yeah.
people are just they're gonna come through the floodgates. Just as Chris saw, how many offers did you say you had?
30.
30 offers. 30
Yeah.
offers.
Yeah.
How long did it
And
take you to
it's
go through all those offers?
all day.
All day.
I did a little video at the end of it.
Yep.
I did a little video. I was exhausted. I probably shouldn't have done it, but I wanted to
Yep.
just express like the thoroughness and how maddening it is on a good way.
Yep.
Oh, you're having one more? I guess I'll have one more.
Just another couple
Just
sips, because
little sips there.
we still gotta we
Uh,
still gotta close this down. And so let me touch on a couple other things. I know we're running about an hour and a half, and
that's all right.
people probably get bored, and
Hey,
that's
let me
fine.
aboard.
Yeah.
This
Um, let's see.
is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this. So, who's the next agent you're going to be interviewing?
Um, I don't know. I
I
mean,
don't know.
we'll have.
Or
I mean,
what's the next topic? There's
well, the
so
next
many
topic.
topics.
Next topic. So I talked to a friend who's he has his construction business. He just got done building a house, like a really nice high end house, over in Orlando. And so I was talking to him, and he's like, "Dude, you should have me on. Let's talk about building houses and how
Ooh.
much it costs, and the difference, or should I build a house or should I buy a house already built?" So we're working on some things. So I want to have him on to talk about everything that goes into actually building a
Mhm.
house. Now he works on the construction side, so he's going to talk about that. But what we're also going to talk
Yeah.
about is, man, it can be a headache to
Yeah.
build your own house.
Have you done new construction homes?
No, I
Like
haven't.
representing the buyer. So
No.
I have a great amount of experience
Hmm.
in new construction sales for buyers, and I have had some pretty challenging, difficult experiences because of it, and working with them. So I think it'll be a great. That should be a great podcast. I'll send you some notes if you want, and some
All right.
questions, some hard questions
Okay.
on it on
Right
that.
on. So that's what I'm thinking about for the next one. I don't know when it's going to be, or because these are just kind of, we don't have a set schedule. It's not Whiskey Wednesdays or Whiskey Tuesdays, or whiskey on a Friday. It's just because whiskey is good at any night. So I don't want to limit myself to just one night of good old fashioned whiskey here. So, um, but so that's kind of the plan for upcoming episodes, and hopefully they'll get my techniques, my technical skills with um, posting and everything will be a little bit better by then. But I
Yeah.
appreciate everybody sticking with us. Do you have anything else
Absolutely.
to add, Chris? What websites, and what's your website?
Websites. The Noon Group at gmail.com, or sorry,
Okay.
thenoongroup.com.
So, and then
So that's my email address. So
okay,
www.thenoongroup.com.
right
So
on.
NEUN.
And then, do
So
you do YouTube or anything, or
I need to get back into it.
yeah?
Honestly, I started off with it. I have maybe like 16 plus videos, kind of doing market updates of things of that nature. But the thing is, I'm trying to focus on where the people are at, especially my generation. Yeah, my generation is definitely on YouTube, but no one's scrolling really for real estate related like content. So I focus
Hmm.
predominantly on social media.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's important, especially with the upcoming generation, where you said 32 or 35% of buyers are millennials right now.
Right.
So hiring an agent to that demographic that can cater to that demographic is actually relatively important. Interview your agents. Do not be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to hurt people's feelings. If they retaliate, then you made a good decision. Um,
Right on.
yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of leave it off with that, man.
All right. Well, cool. I appreciate you joining me on this whiskey with an agent,
This is
and
fun.
yeah,
I
it's a
hope I
good
hope to be a
time.
part of it some more.
Yeah, we will. We'll definitely be doing more. So, well, I'm gonna close it out. I'm gonna hit mute on you there. I'm sorry, but what I got to do. And so again, my name's Jared Allison. I wanted to show you something real quick. Again, um, if you want some more information on the real estate market and things like that, go to my YouTube page. If you just go to YouTube and type in JDA Florida Homes, you will find me there. I've got my latest video, Timber Lumber Prices Are Falling. I posted about 1 week ago. And in that one, I just talk about lumber prices, why they got up so high and why they started dropping off, and kind of everything in between. So go check it out. Give me a like, hit the subscribe on my YouTube. It really helps me out. Um, and you can also check out my Facebook page if you go to facebook.com/JDA Homes, and you can find all of my information there as well. So I appreciate everybody joining me on Whiskey with an Agent, and I hope that you will join me again. Cheers, everybody. Drink up and enjoy another glass of whiskey. We'll see you.